I was born without a womb and vagina, but I'm as female as you. When I was in boarding school, when I was 13, I heard another girl at home talking. I remember hearing, they were all starting and I was embarrassed that I didn't. I was embarrassed because I hadn't officially started puberty yet. I once told them that I was able to get an exemption from the swimming class like everyone else. But the lie didn't stop there. When I told my mother that my period had begun, I was dying to believe that it was true, but looking back, I think it's stupid. 2 years later, I was 15 years old, but my period hadn't come yet. Especially because my mother bought me an unnecessary toiletry, it crossed my head. One day, after breaking her hand, when her mother took me to the hospital, I made everything vague. I told her truth, and I was worried she would get angry with all the useless tampons, but she was relieved to put it all out. In fact, she wasn't a little angry, and in fact I found it very interesting to lie. She thought it wasn't a big deal, like me, that I didn't have my period in. I was probably a late developer. But a year later, when my girlfriend started losing her virginity and there wasn't a menarche yet, I became more and more worried. I didn't even know if I could have sex without my period. The sex class didn't really cover it. It panicked about being left behind anymore. I felt like I wasn't a real woman. So after we went to the doctor and went back and forth with some medical professionals who couldn't understand what the problem was, I was sent to an ultrasound where they found something unusual. I did. "Oh, you don't seem to have anything in you," the doctor said. "The outside is normal, but the inside doesn't really exist. It's basically just a wall." I was finally diagnosed with Mayer-Lokhatansky-Kuster-Hauser syndrome, MRKH. This is a very rare condition caused by developmental problems of the uterus. However, it took me a while to get there. They sent me per test and scanned every scan to get the final diagnosis. I had to do a hormone test to make sure I was really a female. It's hard to deal with when you're 16 and your gender is being questioned. You really don't know who you are without worrying that most of your identity will be a problem. It is psychologically harmful. They found out that I was a biological woman, but it didn't stop me wondering what the purpose I was for was. I kept thinking, if I can't have sex and have children, am I a real girl? It was terrible. There was a lot of information to incorporate. My only ovary is unlikely to lay an egg, but I don't know until I start looking at IVF when I'm ready to lay a child. It also became clear that you can't have sex like a normal person. My doctor solved everything for me and talked about my options. If I want to have sex, I have to go through an extended process, which contains a very heavy, clinically visible, horrifying medical-grade dildo and will be incredibly painful. While taking the exam, I put the MRKH on the back burner, but it came to my mind, like when I was watching all my friends go out with a boy at a party. I couldn't help it, but I thought it couldn't be helped if I wanted to. It kept me away from the boy altogether. But eventually the friendship with the boy at school grew even stronger and I was forced to grow it. After a 2-month date, sex came to be mentioned, so I just had to come out and tell him. I was worried he didn't want to be with me when I couldn't have sex with him yet, but he was great and none of them offended him. I was with you for about a year when I was referred to Queen Charlotte's Hospital in London for extended treatment. At the age of 18, I had to stay in the hospital for a week, where I regularly inserted dilators for 8 hours a day. It was terrible. The dilator feels like a heavy bottle of water. Starting with half the thickness of a ballpoint pen and eventually progressing to the size of a penis, it effectively creates a vagina that can accept penetration. It hurts so much that I have to use a terrible gel that paralyzes everything. You need to move and twist the dilator, which not only makes you feel completely painful, but also makes you feel dirty. Obviously it shouldn't, but it is. The whole experience is long, complex, clinical and terrible. Women in the end, I had a bruise on my entire vagina, bleeding and pain, but I couldn't stop it. This is the worst. You have to do it, but it doesn't seem like you are doing it to recover from an illness or something. You do it just for yourself. You certainly realize the extent of your